It's the weekend, which means I'm working on my truck. I thought I had this thing ready to go for summer, but I realized that just like my own personal issues, I was neglecting a lot of things that need to be taken care of on this truck. So we're gonna get into it today. Probably gonna be like 2 to 3 days worth of work on this thing. I'm gonna do what I can this weekend, take it back home, and then next weekend we'll probably finish it up. So see what's up with this thing. I guess we'll start with the front. So last time I took this thing out, it started puking gear oil out of the short side axle side. And I think this wheel bearing is just on its way out. It's got a little bit of wobble. So we're gonna get this front end all pulled apart today. Hopefully go through this, get everything on the front end done today. The other really big thing going on is this carrier bearing is smoked. When I originally built the truck, I thought the carrier bearing would last like a week. Fast forward a year and a half later, it finally started bouncing around. I think that's plenty fair. I think that's an incredibly long life for a carrier bearing that came on the truck. I don't know how long that carrier bearing was on there before I built the truck. So shout out Toyota for a sweet carrier bearing. The other thing that has been driving me insane since I got this thing done is the brakes have always sucked. Every other Tacoma I built, brakes work fine. Build my own Tacoma, brakes suck. I don't know. Kind of figures, it's kind of the way it goes. Obviously, it's not something that's gonna ruin our day. We're just gonna get it fixed, and that day is today. And while we're on the subject of brakes, we're gonna talk about the company I've recently partnered with. We're linking up with R1 Concept. Those guys make a ton of badass brake stuff. They have sent me some drilled and slotted rotors, along with some off-road / towing pads. I'm not sure exactly what compound those are, but the guy over there told me that they're going to be a little bit more aggressive. They might be a little noisier. I doubt I'll hear them over my 40s. So I'm really excited to get those on. We're basically doing a full overhaul of my brake system. We're going to go through everything, make sure everything is absolutely perfect, because I bet you along the way we're going to find one little stone that I forgot to turn over, and that's going to be what was causing us issues. So I think that all we got left to do is to start pulling this thing apart and get to work, because we got a shit ton of stuff to do. Ooh. Before I pull this shaft out, I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. It's gonna pull the inner axle seal out with it. Because I learned the hard way not to run the new style seals on an axle you're actually gonna work on. Because they're a nightmare to put together. You have to literally pound the axle shaft in, and I can almost guarantee that it's gonna pull it out this way, which it shouldn't. We taking bets? Oh, look at that. Pulled out the axle seal with it. That. You can see that these are such a tight fit that I'm literally trying to pound the seal off the axle shaft and it's not coming. Two for two. Imagine you're out like wheeling and you break an axle shaft and you're in the middle of nowhere and your buddy's like, not to worry, I got a spare axle shaft. Then you go to pull your shit apart and the axle seal comes out with it, rendering your front axle useless because it can't hold oil anymore. To get the axle seal off. Whoever thought this was a good idea should be in the all that's left to knock out is this super shitty seal. Put some new seals in, reverse the process, and stick it back together. So the solution to the axle seals that we hate is this. This is just a single lip seal that comes on a traditional Dana 60. It fits in the axle the exact same way, but instead of having this complicated inner seal, outer seal, press fit BS, it's just a seal. You slide the axle shaft through it, it seals it up, you take the axle shaft out. How it should have always been. Now that the case spreader is out, this thing's sitting exactly how it's gonna run in the vehicle. So I'm gonna go ahead and torque it. These are at 80 foot-pounds each. With the front end all back together, it's time to put on some fresh brakes. Like I said, R1 Concept sent over some sweet new pads and rotors for us. I think these things look super cool too. I checked them out, they're not directional, so it doesn't matter which side goes where. We got everything disassembled under the hood as far as the brake master cylinder went. I checked all my measurements on my little push rod adapter I told you about. Everything seemed to be spot on, which blew my mind. I was fairly certain that was off. Which is a good thing as far as I don't have to remake it. It's a bad thing as far as I was hoping that would be a obvious issue with my brake system that would kind of stick out to me, give me a little bit of confidence that we're gonna get it fixed. No big deal, but what we did do is we did add some residual valves to it. So we put a 2-pound residual valve on both the front and the rear brake line that came off the master cylinder. What that's gonna do is make sure every bit of brake fluid that's in the caliper will stay in the caliper as opposed to slowly bleeding its way back up into the master cylinder. 2 pounds isn't enough to cause any excessive wear, brake drag, blah, 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 but it should be enough to give me that pedal feel I want. Fingers crossed, that's all we can do. With the brakes as far as we can get them without getting someone over here to bleed them, we moved on to the drive line. This is what I was talking about here, this carrier bearing. As you can see, this thing is smoked. We've got a freshie, it's a solid one, like I told you about. It's got just a bearing in the middle of it. It's a big aluminum billet housing to hold on to it. Gonna see which way it goes, but no matter what we're gonna do, this thing's gotta come. So let's rip this thing apart and swap that new piece on. I tell you what, this is why we pull our stuff apart and work on it. After getting this thing apart, I noticed the U-joint this way is not too bad, but this way, ooh, not too good. This thing lost its dust cap on this one. It's got some dry stuff coming out of it, so maybe my carrier bearing wasn't even bad. And it was just this U-joint. Oh well, lucky for me, I got some spare parts in the truck, so we're gonna get this fixed. Look at that. There it is. Inside of the cap has no needle bearings left. This thing was bad. Bad. Glad we caught it though. That would have sucked to catch out in the wild. Most of the time you end up breaking these when you're out in the middle of nowhere, somewhere you don't have cell service, so I try and keep as much spare stuff as I can. And the cool thing about these being from O'Reilly, these precision joints, is I'm just gonna bring the old busted one back, warranty it, throw the new one back in the box, and we got all the spares we need. So here we go, new U-joint in, another new U-joint in, billet carrier bearings in. I put some fresh straps on the yoke, on the axle because the old ones were destroyed. And this thing's good to go, it's all greased. I'll get to this grease zerk once I set it on the ground. All that's left is I'm gonna cut the corner of these body mounts off real quick. We got oil in the diff already. Well, bittersweet today. I replaced everything on the brakes and I went to bed them and they sucked even worse. Then I swapped this thing out, the Tundra booster, and now my brakes are tits, so I should have just swapped this all out in the first place. Close enough. These brakes are, I gotta like relearn how to drive a truck with good brakes, because now I hit them, Jesus Christ, and the truck lunges. Almost wants to lock up the tires, so it's good. It's good. I think it's only right that we do some videos of us, I don't know, working the brakes. Let's see it. Get that. Ooh! How's your hand feeling?
Not even my hands, my arm.
Damn, dude. Hit up Jet for all your custom body work needs.
Checks it out. Alright, we're rolling.
Are you? You filming?
Yes.
I don't know what to do with my... Alright, so we got some new U-joints. The brakes finally work. I think that's enough for this video. I've had enough of doing this. We'll see you on the next one.